All right, so can I get a motion to go back into regular session?
Motion to go back into.
Do I have a second on that?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. We did not do the public participation,
No, we
but there
didn't.
is no public here. Well, Carl,
Carl's here.
Carl's here.
we have public participation, okay.
Don't have anything.
Did you say we want to take something out of order?
Well, if you want to make the
Yes,
motion.
you would say that you're leaving, and so you need, because there's no vice chair here.
I'm
He's
the vice chair.
Yeah, but you're leaving.
Right.
Yes.
In about 20 minutes.
You need to nominate someone to take your place for this meeting only.
Okay. So,
You still have to have a quorum. Are you going to have a quorum?
As soon as Mark gets back.
Okay.
so we can continue, and then when Mark gets back, then
We'll
I
do
will
that. We'll do
make the
that.
motion, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so approval of the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review those minutes? And I think Mark had a,
Problem.
we'll vote without him.
Yes.
Does anybody want to make a?
He's leaving in a couple months anyway.
Yeah, that's right. Does anybody want to make a motion on the minutes from March 8th and 22nd?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the March 8th and the March 22nd, 2018 Silver Lake Regional School Committee minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do we have any conversation on this? Mr. Chris
Do you want to vote?
No.
I'd like to have the letter from Charlie, though well-written and very exciting, removed, and just a statement placed there that he, in fact, did read a letter at the open forum. I think the precedent of typing the entire letter into the minutes would be time-consuming for our clerk and certainly not necessary. So I'd like to have that motion amended to remove the letter and just simply state that a letter was read.
Do we have a second on that motion?
I will second.
All right, any more discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor on Mark's amended motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All right, that's unanimous. Thank you, sir.
And the next one? Gotta vote the whole thing. Minutes?
Did we vote the next one already?
And we
Did you
need
say
to-
8th and then 22nd?
Now we need to vote the minutes as amended.
Okay. So now we need to, does somebody want to make that motion?
Vote the minutes as amended.
Second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All right,
Thank you, Beth.
thank you. Okay, principals reports, Mr. Dupio, you are up.
Yes, thank you. So our yearbooks are now on sale, so I just want to put that out there. They are $30, and they can be ordered online through our link, and they can also be ordered through the main office. The Kennedy Space Center trip, I just wanted to mention that went very well. There was a lot of planning meetings prior to the meeting, a lot of adjustments that we had to make happen prior to going. But that happens when the first time you plan a trip of this magnitude. But it was a great event. Students were actively engaged. Safety was always our first priority, and all the students did an excellent job. And we're very proud of the way they represented the school and Silver Lake. And next month, they will be here to present to you guys. So they'll come here and they'll show you some of their experiences down there. So they'll be here to do that. So that'll be good for next month. Junior Central Music Festival on Friday, May 4th and Saturday, May 5th. 11 of our course students will be participating in the Central Music Festival at Plymouth North High School. Students auditioned back in February. Students did very well. It's a great honor to be selected. And the following students: Gabrielle Anderson, Scott Arnold, Kerry Driscoll, Laurel Fallis, Kyla Ingersoll, Madeline Janis, Magnolia Kunselman, Piper Newton, Caitlin Ringcourt, Emily Runkles, and Dylan Whittemore will be participating. Spring cleaning, our annual clothing drive for Kratos Crayons ended on April 4th. Parents and students checked their closets for clothing in good condition. We collected 23 large bags of clothes for a good cause. I want to thank our peer leaders and Vicki Wright, our advisor, working very hard towards that. Our community builders clubs have their annual Penny War. The Penny Wars event raised money to fund a project in Zimbabwe through the American Foundation for Children with AIDS that will support 20 adolescent girls who have been infected with AIDS. or adversely affected by it. The money our school with other member schools will raise approximately $10,000 in total, and we use to purchase greenhouse, seeds, fertilizer, and training to teach 20 girls how to grow vegetables. Several of our Silver Lake Middle School students have met with the organization's president last year to help coordinate this project. The other thing is that we have our student handbook changes. I highlighted and they're sent out to you. We updated our dress code to be more familiar with the students, things like shirt instead of the word blouse and some other things in there that kind of stay with the times. That has to be checked every now and then. So we updated that, and we added language and discrimination in our handbook. So feel free to take a read of that, and we'll vote on it next time we're here.
Jim, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Just since I was involved in the discussion
Yes,
at
you
school
were.
council on this. The line about shirts of transparent or mesh material, I'm trying to picture what this whole section is part of, only because the first two bullets have sort of an instruction in them, like
Sure.
none of this, and then the next one, it must be this long. Then the next bullet just mentions these types of shirts, but doesn't say are not permitted,
So that's a
or
good
something like that.
clarifying
So
question.
I'm just wondering, sort of what's that sandwiched with? Would it be more clear if I saw it in
Yeah,
context?
I can send it out to you too. So at the top of that bullet, so it's a little column in our handbook, and at the top of that column, it says, the following clothing / garments are not permitted on campus or at any school activity. So that's the piece that Laura's asking for clarity on. So that's at the top, and then it lists like everything that's not permitted. So if you want, I can email that little clip, but basically, just for clarifying purposes, this is just a list of things that are not permitted for clothing. So when it talks about see-through clothing, not revealing undergarments, that's what it's talking about, it's saying that you don't want those kind of things in the school. So, but if you guys would like, I can send out that bullet that goes at the top. If you feel like it's clarified enough, then that's fine too. So that's the handbook. And
If I
we'll-
may,
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that as part of the coordinated program review, I've asked Fred to review the section on 37H and 3/4 and the discipline section in particular, in looking at some of the criteria for the coordinated program review. There may be some changes that we would have ready prior to the next reading. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Jim.
Yep.
So the next thing on my list is the master schedule. I just want to give you an update as I do this time of year. So our master schedule is on track. We will have students placed on teams for step-up day, and we will have student schedules completed and passed out at the end of the year for our 6th and 7th grade students. Again, the importance of that is when they come up here on step-up day, they get a chance to be with their actual classmates that they'll have next year. You get a chance to actually visit and engage with their actual teachers they'll have next year. That's really important when they come from the elementary schools, from the 3 different communities, because instead of being anxious throughout the summer about who their teachers are and who their classmates will be, they'll be excited over the summer, knowing that they already met some of their classmates and they already made new friends from the other towns. So that's on track, that will happen. Then my last piece I was going to mention is the MCAS for ELA. We had our 7th grade ELA MCAS testing on Tuesday and Wednesday. Our students worked extremely hard. They did an excellent job. Our teachers did a great job facilitating the assessment, and IT ensured that everything went seamless, and it was a great job by everyone. So that is my report.
Thank you. All right, high school, Michaela, you're up.
Thank you. Yeah, very busy month, the last 4 weeks. The junior class hosted Mr. Silver Lake, where Kyle Griffin was crowned this year's king. We had several staff members who volunteered their time to serve as judges, Mrs. Basanti, Miss Sweeney, and Mrs. Ritchie. Miss McMillan and Miss Afanasiv hosted, and then we had a lot of other teachers who were there to show their support for their students. Student Council brought back our March Madness week, which was a week-long dress-up, which culminated in a dance at the end of the week. In the class of 2016, we had some members of that class who returned to Silver Lake. last month to give a presentation for juniors and seniors and their parents after school one day to talk about some tips and tricks to navigating the first couple of years at college. They touched upon topics relating to financial aid, how to work through conflicts with roommates, living with someone new for the first time. So it was a really exciting opportunity for our upperclassmen to get a little bit more of a one-on-one time with someone who's experienced it but knows what it's like to come from a smaller school into a bigger school. So it was a neat opportunity for our kids to attend that with their parents. On April 4th, we held a makeup training for our students who were absent during the ALICE training, and we're currently working with KPD to schedule additional drills this spring. Grace Dooner, who's one of our seniors, was awarded the DAR Good Citizen Award at the Plymouth Yacht Club last month. She was one of 10 recipients along the South Shore to receive that award. We had our junior prom last week at Lombardo's. Students were treated to an all-they-could-eat buffet, an ice cream and candy bar, dancing, and a photo booth. So we traveled to and from the prom in coach buses. It was uneventful. Everybody had a great time, especially at the red carpet. Our guidance department hosted a junior parent college night last week where they provided information on the application process to colleges and the financial aid process. And on Monday, our science departments at both the high school and middle school combined together to host the first annual SLRSD STEM Expo. And it was a great turnout. There were a lot of different projects that were showcased and demonstrations for families and students to participate in. Our students who are completing independent studies had an opportunity to share their research with visitors to the school. So it was a neat opportunity for them to showcase what's being done in the science department as well as our tech department. And it looks like this is an event that will continue to grow each year. And earlier today, author Juliet Fay visited Mr. McStow's class and met with the students in his creative writing class, and then stayed after school to meet with students in the creative writing club. It was a neat opportunity for our students to hear a little bit about how she became published, how to work through writer's block. She answered all of their questions that they had. It was, again, a great opportunity for our students. All right, I have for you some athletic handbook change proposals for next school year. The first change, it's highlighted, there's a handout that Lisa shared with you, is on the process of selecting captains. A few years ago, we had changed to make the selection of captains be held at the beginning of a new season. And that at the time was in response to students who may have had a chemical health violation and not being stripped of their captaincy if they violated the MIA rules. The MIA has now changed their rules for captaincy, so our coaches are asking for our support in allowing them more autonomy and flexibility in when they choose their captains, either at the end of the season for the following season or at the beginning of the season, giving them at their discretion what's best for their team and their program. And so our school council supports that and is seeking your support in that as well. The other change to the athletic handbook relates to sport registration. We're looking to input deadlines for families to register so that we can make sure all the necessary paperwork is accumulated before then, that we have every document that we need on file, including medical documentation. We can check for academic eligibility, discipline eligibility, and make sure that they're ready to go by day one per MIAA rules.
Question.
Yep.
Is the automated method of registering the only method you have available?
If a family does not have access to a computer, we can register them in the office.
Okay, so it will be done in person or it's done, so,
The preferred method is through Family ID, but if a family can't, then we will absolutely take care of them.
and that deadline would be that they'd
the-
have to physically do that before they do
Yes.
that.
Yep. And then we work to collect all of the information we need to give them the go by the first day of the season.
Just one comment. I think it's just something to consider whether or not you would want to include the name of a product, like Family ID, in the handbook. I know the district that I work in, we used to use Family ID and we switched to something else. So it might be worth considering making that a more generic.
Sure.
I think it's fine to include it in there, but it's just a thought. Technology changes so quickly that,
Right.
next year there might be some new tool. And I think it could probably be written so that, there was just sort of, athletic management
a
system or
platform,
something like
yeah.
that. So just something to think about. I think it's fine as is, but just a thought.
We can do that. And then we would just send out the link each year.
Right.
This is the guy who got.
That's easy enough. Thank you. Okay, the other changes are to the student handbook, separate from athletics. The first one is a language change more so than a change to practice or policy. It's really just to be more transparent to our families so they understand the process of building the master schedule and why we have cutoff dates for requesting to change classes. So it's just going into more detail for our families to understand that. The third piece is to actually add some language about our CTE program, which currently isn't listed in our student handbook. It talks about the application process as well as the requirements for seniors who wish to go out on co-op. So all of that language highlighted would be all new, added. The fourth item, probably the biggest issue that we are seeing today, relates to vaping. And we're not unique in the sense that, like many schools across our country, unfortunately, we're seeing a growth in the trend of students who are vaping. And they're so brazen that they do it in the bathrooms. They're not even hiding in the stalls at this point. So it's become quite an issue for us to deal with. And to be quite honest, our bathrooms aren't safe spaces for our students anymore. So there are a couple of things that we're trying to roll out in order to address this issue. One of them is changing the way we have our sort of pass and bathroom policy in the school. But one thing that we would like to do to deter students from partaking in this is to up the ante in terms of what the discipline would be. So we are, in our work with school council, we are looking to align vaping with our alcohol and drug violations, which would be an automatic 5-day suspension. Again, the big piece is to deter students from participating in this behavior, to keep our schools safe for our students. But the other piece of that is, unfortunately, there's no way for us to tell what is in the vape. You know, we can smell it, we can tell you what it smells like, but it's different from coming across alcohol or drugs. Those are easily identified. Our vapes, we don't know what's in it, and we are learning that students can put drugs in them and could be under the influence when using them at school. So we would just like to align that all under our chemical health violation and treat them all equally in an effort to make our schools safer for our students.
And the devices are so small, some of them look like a USB drive, and you would never know.
Yeah, I mean, they look like they're charging,
Right.
something on their Chromebook. Yeah, and we're learning more and more about it. We'd like to bring some programs in to educate our parents about them as well and try to keep up with these new devices and what the students are putting in them and how it's impacting their bodies, so.
Is there a chance we could do something about having monitors at the bathrooms?
So one of the things, actually, Ms. Orcutt and I
Yeah.
spoke
Yeah.
earlier this week. So one of the things that we are exploring after spring break is kind of being creative with our hall monitors that we have and positioning them outside of the bathrooms and having students sign in to use the bathroom. So we're currently working with our staff on that to come up with a system that will help deter that behavior as well. You know, administrators, teachers are constantly in and out of the restrooms.
I don't know how relevant or if it would be wrong, because it would be difficult for our teachers to do it. But when I was in high school, they had teachers who were off period, literally sitting at a desk right in front of each of the bathrooms.
Yep, and so that's what we're looking to do. Yep, absolutely. So that is in the works.
And I wasn't sure if that was going to violate anybody's.
Well,
No, we
They-
wouldn't want to put a teacher in a position to have to stand in the bathroom, but I think if we have a system where students can sign in and out, if nothing else, we have a timestamp.
Mind you, of course, there were also 3 police officers in my school, so I mean, it wasn't even an issue.
So we're hopeful that all of these things combine and just, again, educating our families too on what these devices actually are, because that's a big piece of it too. So absolutely, yeah.
I don't know if you know this, but I actually have a degree in the treatment and prevention of drug and alcohol abuse. And the vaping of THC, there actually have chemists who are working on eliminating any of the scents that could be produced by this. So having someone outside would act as a deterrent, also as a stamp of who was there and when. But that's how advanced some of these items are. And unfortunately, we have people from the tech industry who helped develop the iPhone who are currently working on developing vaping technology. Their subscriptions, it's amazing. So they're making it extremely chic and cutting edge to actually have the best and newest vaping machine. So I'd be more than happy to talk to you.
I would love the opportunity, absolutely.
So
Right.
let me get clarification. So in defining vaping, it doesn't even matter what's in it. It's more the actual device that we're trying to restrict, I suppose. 'Cause like you said, you can't tell one from another. And
Right, so similar to like our drug policy, any
Yeah.
paraphernalia. So
Fair
if a
enough.
student has either the juice or the pen.
Yep. All right.
Just like back in the 80s, if you
Yeah.
brought in a bong, but it's just water. You know, it doesn't matter.
Jim, what does the middle school handbook, does it talk about vaping specifically? I mean, obviously, I know that it's a bigger issue at the high school, but I know that it's
It's a
somewhat of an
rising
issue at the middle school.
Something that, unfortunately, that Kenneth and I have had multiple conversations, more recent than before, based on some of the survey results that we looked at not too long ago from our school council survey. We saw a distinct rise in how many students actually saw a student vaping in the bathroom. And it's as concerning for us as it is for Michaela at the high school. Even though the frequency may be less, our kids are younger, and if that's where they're first seeing it, that's a very big concern for us. And unfortunately, we're having very similar conversations, Michaela is, at the high school about, what can we do with our current staff to monitor the bathrooms. We certainly, one of the things that we did, and it wasn't for vaping purposes as much as it was for bullying and other things, is that we have cameras in the hallways outside the bathroom, so we can see who's going in and out and what time they're going in and out. So we had already done that, and that certainly has helped us. We've had to find a student that, whether it be vandalism or whether it be drugs, alcohol, or vaping, for us to go do that.
Is that at all the bathrooms?
Yes. So for every single bathroom that we have the cameras set up in that hallway. And again, originally it was set up really for bullying purposes, and it certainly has served us for multiple purposes since then. And we're also talking about how we can position staff now, because again, we do not want our students subjected to seeing students vape in the bathroom, and it's a concern. And so I'm in agreement 100% with everything Michaela said, and we're having similar conversations with exactly the situation.
Do you have the similar policy being written then?
We didn't put a policy in for suspension of 5 days,
Okay.
but we do see vaping, and vaping is in our student handbook, and we do suspend for vaping, just like drugs, alcohol,
Sure.
smoking.
Isn't the age 21 on having that stuff anyway?
In
think
Kingston,
so.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not in all the towns?
No.
Not the
Especially not on the internet, Ed?
Good point. Sorry, never mind, I'm in the dark ages. Sorry about that.
Well, I think the point of being strict at the middle school level is important too, because they're even further away in age from where they should be able to obtain these things.
And I can assume that the health education process is addressing this issue.
Yep, we have help for every 7th grader that comes in. It's part of our curriculum, and they talk exactly, a piece of the curriculum is exactly that. And it's absolutely addressed.
And, I think we're attacking it on all fronts, and it really is, I think all of our heads are spinning on how can we keep up with even just the new devices that are coming out. 2 years ago even, you could easily tell that student has one because they were large and bulky, and now they can hide them in the palm of their hand while they're in class, and all of a sudden you're like, what's that smell, or what is that, So we're attacking it from all ends, I think, as best as we can.
Thanks for.
So that is the big one.
Yeah, appreciate it.
No, absolutely. And then the last item is adding a small piece of new language regarding our ACE, or Alternative Classroom Environment, which is our in-school, to include the MIAA rule that if a student is in an in-school suspension, they're not eligible to participate in any sports or extracurricular activities that day. So that actually wasn't in our handbook, but should be. So, and I did bring a copy, we have a couple extras, so if it's easier for you to flip through the actual handbook to see the changes that we're proposing for next year, please feel free to grab one. on your way out tonight to review so that we can hope to approve these next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, before we move on to school district business, I need to excuse myself. I have a engagement for my son's sports banquet that I'm late for. But so I'd like to nominate Jason Frazier as the chairman pro tem for the remainder of the meeting tonight.
Second.
All right, all those, any discussion before? All right, all those in favor? Aye. All right, thank you, Jason, and thank you, everybody.
Have a great time, Mark.
Thank you. It takes two to get this meeting done.
Looks like it takes 3.
Yeah.
So if there's nothing further, I'll be leaving.
No. Jason's got it.
Thank you for your services, Fred, appreciate it.
Thank you. It'll be appreciated.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to Christine, Director of Business Services. Christine?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to mention, as we're in our last quarter of the financial year, the warrants tonight are much greater than we've seen in the past. In tonight's warrants, we include our debt payment for the middle school and the high school. We make 2 interest payments a year, one in November, one in May, and we make 1 principal payment in May, so this is an interest and principal payment. Although the payment's not due until the middle of May, we do always put it on the April warrant, just in case anything happens between now and then. We just want to make sure it's been approved, it's ready to go. So that'll be, and that warrant was $1.2 million. And then in addition, we also have our third OPEB payment in tonight's warrants. So that's an exciting thing to make our third payment. And at our next meeting, there'll be Bartholomew Company, which is the entity that we use to invest our funds, will be coming in to give a presentation on how our funds are doing and what kind of progress we're making. And then after that, I just want to mention that as we're in the third quarter, we're starting to see some wear and tear on our budget. Our budget's struggling in some areas. One of the areas I wanted to bring to your attention is on page 2, the top third of the page for our substitute line. We have some long-term subs in place in those spots. And there will be some savings in the teaching lines for those that are getting full payments for this, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention because that number will continue to grow. It's pretty minor right now, but it will continue to grow through the end of the year. The other item I wanted to bring to your attention is also on page 2, right in the middle of the page. It's the tuition reimbursement account. We're starting to see some deficits there also. Those will continue to grow. It's just there's been a lot of activity this year between the middle school and the high school on the tuition reimbursements. The next
Where's
item.
that one, Christine?
I'm sorry.
Tuition reimbursements?
What was the question?
Where is it on this list?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's
I
on
missed
page
it.
2.
Yes.
Page 2 of the detail. Right in the middle, just above the middle of the page, the middle school is a deficit right now. It's only $369. Only $108. Because that will continue. That will
Gotcha.
continue to grow as we get further into the year. The next item I wanted to bring to your attention was middle of page 3 under transportation. Our homeless transportation account for high school is soaring, unfortunately. Middle school still does have a surplus right now, but the surplus will not be enough to cover that. This number will continue to grow. This is through the end of March. This is everything that we know of that's happened through the end of March that we've accounted for so far.
Why was that?
The homeless transportation.
Oh, yeah. I didn't hear the first one.
And unfortunately, we have had some changes in a positive direction for us, but they're not enough to make a significant change. That number is a deficit of 17,000 right now, and that will continue for 3 more months to go. Transportation bills.
Can I get just a brief description of that policy? Basically, if we have a homeless family in Kingston, starts school here,
Christine can probably
and give
tell you.
us just a brief.
We're following McKinney-Vento Act, which means that once a student becomes homeless, they have the option of either enrolling in the school where they are currently living or going back to their home school. Most students choose to go to their home school and then they need to be transported. And that transportation is a shared obligation between the town they're living in and the town they came from.
It is a shared obligation.
It's a shared obligation. There have been some changes in the most recent year regarding foster students, where that is for us that used to be under the homeless umbrella and we would treat those students the same way. The language on that has changed, and with foster students, the thought is that when they're placed in a foster home, that's a more permanent replacement, so they should be enrolling in the current school. But there are still some students that for whatever reason we would need to send back to their home school. And that kind of falls under a little different, Title I is eligible to use some of the funds towards that. For us, it seems to just change each year where those students are coming from. So we're paying for homeless transportation for students that are enrolled in the middle school or high school living elsewhere. And then we're also paying for students that are living in the shelter that go to school back at their home school. So there's a wide variety of students that covers. And each year, it's a brand new year. The activity is new. There's different types of arrangements that need to be. One of the biggest things that I've seen now is there are a lot of people doubling up. Most of it used to result from students living in a shelter. Now there's a lot of doubling up situations with families that have lost their home. So we try to make part of the day as normal as possible, and we continue to make arrangements to make sure that transportation happens, and we do the best that we can.
Now, is any of that transportation to similar communities, or is it grouped, or is it individual transportation per student to the?
It can be a little bit of everything. What happens sometimes is you may have a family living at the shelter, they're going to their home school in Abington, say, but one's an elementary student, one's a middle school student, one's a high school student. Their begin and start times are so different that so in some cases, can end up having 3 separate transportations. But if the opportunity were there, say for instance, we had enough people at the shelter, we would try to make that work. Now, we may have students living at the shelter that are enrolled here at the middle school or the high school, so they would just take a regular bus. So it's for those students that are either going from there outside of our communities or outside of our communities trying to come back in, that we would have to provide transportation for.
And can you address, without being specific, the impact, the number of students you have in this particular category? Just a ballpark, is it 10 to 20, 20 to 30?
Between the middle school and the high school, I'd say maybe 12 to 15 students throughout the year. Not all students' situations exist for the whole year. It can be for 2 months, it can be 3 months, oftentimes it can be the whole year. So and then it also depends on where the student is going to school. We had a student one year that was in Boston at a temporary placement and was coming back to school here. So that was kind of an extreme example of how this can work.
And all of that transportation's contract, right?
Yes.
And at what point does the temporary become permanent? Is there language for that? So like with the doubling up situation, a family moves in with the grandparents.
The guideline has been up to a year. I am only aware of one situation that has existed longer than that, and in that case, they had found some housing and became homeless a second time. So for us, it's been a 2-year span, but there was a break there that allowed them to have access to those services again. And then, I would say for the past 4 or 5 years, we have been getting some form of reimbursement. For several years, we received nothing, and then the first year, there was a 50% reimbursement. The past few years have not been to such a high extent. We're always hopeful that we do get some reimbursement.
So. A partially funded mandate. Thanks.
Exactly.
That is true.
A similar question on the contract base, middle school, high school. They seem to be spent. We push that out to them at the beginning of the year, at the beginning of the semester. So that's why we have no balance remaining in those.
Let me just take a look, so we could
I'm following that right?
looking at the same thing as you.
I think what he's looking at
Homeless
is,
transportation account?
no,
No, the regular contract.
it's budgeted for the entire year.
So, okay, yeah, that's why there's 1%.
It's encumbered through the whole year.
Yeah, so what we do is you'll see, if you, just going left to right, you'll see when we start with the budget.
Yeah.
And then we have year-to-date payments, the balance, and then the encumbrance. So at the beginning of the year, we would encumber what we need to get through the entire year. So that balance of $5,000 is actually because there is a clause in our contract, an escalation clause, in case the gas price does rise.
Oh, sure.
So I do include that.
Yeah.
We have not had to use that.
But everything gets pushed out, other payment obligations due for the remainder of the year for transportation.
Correct.
Okay, perfect.
Right, so
Yeah.
we've only paid through March.
Sure.
I think March bills are on this warrant, and then we were covered April, May, and June.
Are there any more questions for Christine?
We interrupted your highlights.
Oh, no, this is exciting. Very exciting. I'm glad you're listening.
Thank you so much, Christine.
Chris, you and Christine can hang out.
And
Any questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
Now for Jill, our Assistant Superintendent.
Thank you. More than 130 staff members were trained by the Plymouth County Suicide Prevention Coalition in the question, persuade, and refer method for suicide prevention, and I provided you there with the interventions that are endorsed by the model. I have been working with Lana Tereshko on helping to plan and facilitate an on-site SEI endorsement course, and that requires approval by the state. Lana has recently submitted a survey to the staff to try to find out what dates and times would best accommodate the needs of our staff, and we hope to be able to offer at least one SEI endorsement course on campus in the fall and/or spring, but sometimes it takes a while for the state to approve the SEI endorsement courses. But Lana will be the instructor for that course, so that will help facilitate the timeliness, and I know that there are a number of teachers who will be happy that they'll be able to access that course relatively locally. Scott Farrell not only has applied to the state to become an STE ambassador, but he was selected, and he will be working with our staff as well as colleagues from around the state, working to align the new STE and math frameworks. So congratulations to him. He will be providing leadership in our district and in our state. The Wellness Committee reviewed the epinephrine procedure proposal from the school nurses, and they have proposed to the superintendent that parents and guardians be notified at the start of the school year that all schools in Silver Lake have a standing doctor's order from the school physician for epinephrine use. And so with this, what they would like to do is make it optional for parents to provide epinephrine for their students. If they decided not to provide epinephrine for their students, the school nurses would have stock epinephrine for emergency use. The only addition to that would be that they would have to supply epinephrine for field trips, because they wouldn't be able to let their stock epinephrine go on the field trip. So it would give more flexibility for parents, and it was recommended in terms of not only our survey results, but also from the state, to kind of somewhat alleviate the financial burden of stocking EpiPens and epinephrine in schools. So they're going to be sending out that letter at the beginning of the school year, giving parents that choice, but also noting that they would still require it for field trips. The state held an information session pertaining to the Next Generation Accountability System, and in your package you'll see 2 slides from that presentation. Accountability indicators. You have both the non-high schools and you have the high schools. For non-high schools, our middle school, two changes. In addition to achievement and growth, which we are familiar with, there will be an English language proficiency target, which will appear in our accountability. And we'll need to meet those annual targets for students who are developing their English language proficiency. And then there will also be a chronic absenteeism indicator. This will be the percentage of students missing 10% or more of their days in membership.
Jill, do we have 20 students, 20 ELLs at either the middle school or the high school?
So,
because that's the minimum size for the group, for
No.
that to count?
not right now.
Okay, so that indicator won't count for us in the future then? At this time?
At this time.
Yes.
At this time, it's just something to be aware of, because that can change, as you know.
Do we have 20 for the district?
Yes.
Okay, so it will count for district accountability?
For districts. Right. It's,
Well, no, I mean for Silver Lake.
no, we're talking kind of Silver Lake.
Oh, for
Because Silver Lake gets separate accountability.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's not an indicator that will count for us.
Not unless our numbers change. I don't want to make promises.
No.
Absolutely.
It's not something I can control.
No.
And then on the high school indicators, In addition to achievement, student growth, and then high school completion, which is not a new indicator for us, but there's also the English language proficiency, which could eventually, if we have enough in numbers. And then we have the additional indicators of chronic absenteeism, and an interesting new indicator of the percentage of 11th and 12th graders completing advanced coursework, things like advanced placement, dual enrollment courses, other selected rigorous courses. And we have been, talked with the high school coordinators and department heads and the principal about these potential changes or potential impact that these changes could have. And in terms of opportunities for students and encouraging them to pursue academic rigor, and the need, again, for providing guidance in terms of students what is appropriate for them without putting too much pressure on them to take AP or rigorous coursework. So finding the right balance for our students and helping them, and also informing parents about what their student options are. So those are the indicators. More information to follow. There wasn't a lot of detailed information about exactly how those new indicators, at least in the session that I was part of, there was a lot of debate and discussion in the session that I went to about growth, and how Every Student Succeeds the Act wanted more emphasis on growth and the potential negative impact that could have, for example, science, because it doesn't have a growth indicator, kind of discounting the value or weight of certain tests without those growth measures. So the proposal for the state is going to be the 3-to-1 ratio that currently exists, which is the 3-to-1 is a 3 achievement to 1 growth. That's the current ratio that we have right now, and that is what is being recommended. And I believe that vote is scheduled towards the end of April with the Board of Education. So as I find out more information, I will present that to you. And I think that's those are the main items for tonight. Any questions?
Congratulations again to Mr. Farrell, and as someone who went through the SEI endorsement course, I applaud you trying to bring that onto campus for the teachers. Would that be available also to our Union 31 teachers as well?
Yes, it's going to be available, and in fact, as you may know, as part of an SEI endorsement course, we're actually going to have to open it up to other districts as well. But having it here, we're more likely to get a lot of signups early and try to take care of our own teachers and make it a little bit more convenient, because it is a commitment. It's an important course, but it's a very time-consuming one. So this might help them.
Thank you very much, Jill.
Thank you.
And now on to Superintendent Joy Blackwood's report. And Joy, congratulations on your evaluation.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure working with you during your tenure here, and I look forward to many more years.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate everyone's work in submitting them, and Laura especially for putting it together. Budget discussion. So I wanted to update you on the status of our budget with the 3 towns. So the town of Kingston, the Finance Committee, were kind enough to support the Silver Lake budget, so they have voted in support of it. The Board of Selectmen will be voting on the budget on April 17th, which is Tuesday evening, so we'll hopefully receive support from the selectmen also. The town meeting for Kingston is May 5th, so we're hopeful that we'll have a good turnout and that the budget will go through the town of Kingston. In Halifax, I have attended several Finance Committee meetings trying to advocate for the Silver Lake budget. The first meeting that we invested some time in, it was a 2-2 vote. So we received no support. There were 4 members present. We went back Monday evening, and there were 5 members present, presented again, and had been hopeful that they would support. Unfortunately, it was a 3-2 against. So the town of Halifax has voted against supporting, the Finance Committee, I suppose I should say, has voted against supporting the Silver Lake budget. I'm not aware that the Board of Selectmen has taken a vote yet, but I do not anticipate that they will vote to support the budget. So the town of Halifax's town meeting is on May 14th. which is Monday, same night as Kingston School Committee. And that will be a important meeting for us to have as many people as possible attend in support of the Silver Lake budget. The Town of Plimpton Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee have both voted to support the Silver Lake budget. And their town meeting is on Wednesday, May 16th. So the hope is that, bless you.
Thank you.
That if we receive support in Kingston on May 5th, that maybe the town of Halifax at their town meeting would choose to support it. And then if not, we'll go on to Kingston. Well, we'll go on to Kingston, to Plimpton, no matter what. But on the 16th, hopefully Plimpton will also vote to support with the Finance and Board of Selectmen voting.
It only takes two anyway.
It only takes two. If two towns vote to support it, the third town really does not have a choice. Really does not have a choice. The town of Halifax, even though they have not voted to support the budget, they do have the money within their levy. They did confirm that with me. To support the budget, they are just choosing not to. So, that's the status of the budget. Hopefully, we will get good turnouts of family and staff members that can attend. And I actually was hoping to reach out and to see if maybe, and I don't know if it's possible, but if student council might need some hours for offering some babysitting or staff members or something to get some people to town meetings. Maybe a possibility to think about. Might be in a good time to offer that. Kingston's in the morning, 9 o'clock, and then Halifax and Plimpton are both in the evenings, 7 or 7:30. 7:30 for Halifax, 7 for Plimpton, I think, yes. And the 18 night, David, have any questions about the budget?
I just had one comment, and this was passed on by the Finance Committee from Plimpton. They appreciated how many times we went and looked at the numbers and went back to the budget. They weren't as clear, potentially, as some of our other finance committees and exactly what they were looking for, but their request since I've been part of this has been about 2.5%. So they were extremely happy with our attempt to get down towards that, and they were satisfied with the 2.69% that we ended up with. So I also have some information based on yesterday's House vote on their version of the budget that might make things a little bit easier for our 3 towns to swallow as well.
Thank you. So you have before you the draft 2018-19 school calendar. Again, this is a draft. We will not do a firm vote on the calendar yet. We have to wait until all of the town elections are held for school committees before we officially vote it. Next school year, the new teacher orientation will be on Friday, August 24th. The 27th and 28th will be our in-service for teachers. Wednesday, the 29th, will be our first day of school. And by the way, I've already put in my request next year to control the weather. There's no snow days, so don't worry. I got this covered. Monday, September, sorry, people seem to think I can control the weather by the calls I get. It's kind of intriguing. Monday, September 3rd is Labor Day. The 24th is a half professional day, and that is a Monday. So the 7-12 will be released at 10:45, K through 6, 12 noon. We will be able to hold our professional development day on Tuesday the 9th. We like to extend it for the families to have that 4-day weekend. That seems to be very popular. We only move it when we're having a large election because the schools in Halifax and Kingston are both polling places. This is not a year that we will need to do that. It's not an anticipated large election. So the 9th is our full professional development day, a 4-day weekend for our families. The 18th will be parent conferences on the elementary level. On the 12th, we will be celebrating Veterans Day. Veterans Day is actually celebrated on the 11th, but we have to hold it on the day nearest it, which is the Monday. The 21st is our half day for Wednesday before Thanksgiving. On the 24th, we will end school for Christmas break on Friday the 21st, excuse me. So we'll have a little bit longer Christmas break this year. I know, teachers are happy. So we'll have the week of the 24th off, the 31st and 1st. So we'll actually have 7 days without school during the winter break. So that'll actually be a really nice break. Everybody seems to be getting sick around then. It's really kind of nice to clear the air, have a little time off, and have an opportunity to clean up the schools. The 21st is Martin Luther King Day. You may remember last year we moved the full day PD day from that Tuesday because it's right in the middle of midterms. The secondary schools have been asking us to move that for quite a while because it was impacting their ability to study with the students. So it took us quite a while to come up with a date, and we finally did, and we moved it to the Friday before school vacation week. This current year, I received comments from the parents that they enjoyed having the extended day. It's a little bit cheaper for flights, for those of you who've ever tried to book flights around it, to be able to do it on that off day. This year, we're going to try it on Monday, the 25th. On Friday, it gets a little bit confusing because some of the teachers' contracts have them leaving a little bit earlier, so it's a little bit cleaner, I think, if we're going to try that on the Monday. So we're going to try this year on Monday, the 25th. I think that may work better for everyone involved. I do try to listen to feedback. On March 7th, it is an early release day, half day, professional development day, and the 21st is parent conferences for the elementary school. Spring vacation next week is the 15th to the 19th. The 19th is Good Friday, so that's why it is not separate on the calendar, so it actually falls within our normal spring vacation time. Even though I know I won't have any snow days, it will be helpful to not have that extra day break, so that will be good. The 30th is the half-day, again, for the elementaries, K through 6. High school graduation, June 1st next year, and the tentative and hopefully firm last day of school next year is June 13th. Anybody have any questions or concerns on the calendar?
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
The Monday, September 24th,
Okay.
I'm just wondering, I can't remember that we've had Monday half-days before. Maybe I'm wrong, but
We
just wondering how that sort of came to be.
Well, what we sort of have found is that it's harder, it's easier for parents if we hold it on a Friday or a Monday. They seem to be a little bit more preferential. I can't say we necessarily always have the best attendance on those half days in terms of some families, but we haven't always done Mondays, but I don't foresee that as a problem. If we do have a school committee meeting, we would still hold the meetings if that was sort of where it was going. We only cancel school committee meetings if it's a weather-related day. Do you not feel it would work well?
No, I just wondered, just because it seemed like a lot of, we've had them on Fridays before, which I know.
It's an early release issue.
Right. No, it makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny.
The same issue as the February vacation.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, it's trying to accommodate everyone's schedule, which is amazingly complex.
And we know that this calendar is hard to digest when you're looking at it for the first time. So if you have any input for Joy between now and our next meeting, if you could email her directly and just give her any of the feedback or ideas that you have about the calendar.
Does the draft get shared at all? I know a couple people have asked me about
I
dates.
actually was meant to mention, we can put this up on our website, if that's okay.
So it's something we could share?
Absolutely.
Or
Yeah, it's a
if
public
online.
document once we've given it out of school committees.
Great, because I think people like to sort of just look ahead and
Yes.
see what's in the works.
Absolutely.
Even if it's not final.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you, Lisa.
And we already had the school choice vote.
We did the school choice vote. It was
So
an
is
easy
there
night.
Anything else, Joy?
Easy night. I'm good.
Any other questions for Joy? All right, thank you very much, Joy. We're on to new business. So MASC has something they call the Day on the Hill. This year it's April 25th. I will be attending. Any MASC member is welcome to join. My goal going up to the Hill is to ask for our senators and representatives to support the Foundation Budget Review Commission's findings from several years ago. Also to fully fund Circuit Breaker, and to also consider the enrollment date as we prescribed to them through one of our resolutions last year. Currently, we are responsible for students as of October 1. Is that the best way of putting it? We realize there's lots of movements of students after October 1, and we could recoup potentially some of the funds that is allocated through Chapter 70 based on our enrollment numbers if that number was taken at a later date in the school year. If you have anything you would like me to bring up with our senators and representatives, please feel free to email me individually, not to the whole committee, and I will bring that with me on April 25th. Thank you very much. If there's no questions, we'll move on to old business. And this is our discussion about the frequency of school committee meetings. We had a heated and I think productive conversation, but we didn't really resolve many of the questions about our schedules moving forward after this year. So Joy, if you'd like to kick us off.
I'd be happy to. This is something that, if you remember, the initial way this came about was a school committee, a member of our staff is chair of a school committee in another district, and she shared with me what Old Rochester does, which is they do a 6-week rotation instead of every month, because they also have 3 elementaries and then a regional 7-12. So they came up with a schedule that they tried the first year from January to June, liked it so well, they then voted it and are working every 6 weeks going forward. I apologize, I really, with the budgets, I have not had an opportunity to come up with a schedule that has any chance of working in our district, but it is on my list of things to do. So I'll try to put one together and bring forward once I survive town meetings, and we can discuss whether or not that is something that we would consider. For Silver Lake, I do not believe 6 weeks would work during budget season. I think we all agree with that. As a matter of fact, sometimes 4 weeks is too long. So, we may need to hold other meetings. But there are times of years that it certainly could. In the fall, one of the things that was mentioned was, when Marie does her special education presentation, she does it 4 times. There is certainly a bit of a groundhog day to our life in terms of some of the things that we keep repeating. Sometimes I'm not always clear which meeting I've showed up at, because especially if there are more than one meeting, am I absent? So it can get confusing. So it is something that I think is worth considering. I honestly don't know if it'll work here, but again, Old Rochester is the exact same makeup as ours, and they seem to be very, very happy with it, and it's definitely meeting their needs. So not that we don't all enjoy lots of meetings, but it could be something that could be worthwhile to consider.
I know one of the topics that we've talked about recently is the balance in our lives and in the lives of our administrators as well. The whole reason why we moved our principals to the beginning of the meeting is in case they need to go and be with their families. We saw Eric leave earlier today. The reason Paula isn't here tonight is because she's with her family. So I think even if we can't go to a 6-week cycle, I think if we can take a couple of the meetings off of the table, we always have the right to call additional meetings. And it's not going to be something that's written in stone for years to come. So I really think that we need to consider it moving forward. And I'm fully in support of trying to maximize the time our administrators are doing their jobs. Getting back into the building in the morning and being there for our kids is the priority. So just using the bully pulpit while I got it. All right.
I appreciate it.
Reports of school committees, subcommittees, and SCLA.
Hi, I'm Kim Morcutt. I have no real statement to say tonight because it has been absolutely insane with term 3 closing. But as always, I just want to thank you guys for the support heading into the town meetings and know that the teachers will be there to support the budget that you guys have worked so hard on. So we're trying to rally the troops as best we can, but we appreciate it, really. So thank you.
Thank you, Kim. We appreciate it. I believe we already had our admin review meeting this evening.
Let's start with this morning.
Okay. CTE has had no meeting since our last. I am not the chairman, so I do not have a report for you. Legislative agent report, I do have some news for you. The House yesterday voted their version of the state budget, and I just wanted to read 2 quotes to you to really put into perspective what the dollars and cents are for. So the House Speaker, Robert DeLeo, said that this spending plan stays true to our values of supporting vulnerable residents, making key investments, and living within the state's fiscal realities. The House Ways and Means Chairman, Jeffrey Sanchez, said, "Working on this budget, I could see the faces of the people of my community and throughout the Commonwealth." And I hope that's something that we all think of every time we sit down to think of the dollars and cents that we're putting on the table, that these are the people of our community. These are causes that are just and needed. So, They did increase some of Governor Baker's recommendations. Chiefly, the unrestricted local aid will stay the same as Governor Baker suggested, but they are planning on adding an additional $9.5 million for charter school reimbursement, an additional $1 million for homeless student transportation, and $8.8 million more for the special ed circuit breaker fund. For us here, the Department of Revenue just put out their cherry sheet of the estimates based on the House version of the budget. Now, this has not been voted. This is not official. When we look at the increases to Chapter 70, regional transportation, and charter school reimbursement, our receipts net of charges would be about $55,000. And I know that doesn't sound like a large number, but considering how hard we worked sitting at these tables over the past several weeks to cut $14,000, $8,000 to $55,000 is a huge win. And I hope this would encourage anybody who's still concerned about our budget to vote in favor of the Silver Lake Regional Schools budget. The FY18 circuit breaker was funded last year at $281 million. The state has acknowledged that the estimate is already underfunded by 8.1% this year and has thus recommended funding circuit breaker for next year at a $300 million level in hopes that circuit breaker will be fully funded at the 75% level next year.
I just sent a letter, email to both Tom Coulter and Rep. Macedo for that.
It's wonderful news. We've been aching for this news for the past couple of years. There's lots of doomsday prophecies out there that the economy will never get better, that we will never have the resources to maintain adequate, and I hate that word, adequate education in the state of Massachusetts. But obviously, there's money in the coffers and it's being put to good use in this version of the budget. I fully support and laud our lawmakers for their efforts on this. Thank you. Now moving on to negotiations. Okay. PAC, Maureen is not here to give us anything. Policy, we've run through lots of policies. Revolving funds.
Nothing.
We did not have a safer committee. Mark, do you have anything to add?
No, I would like to ask, though, that we hold a spot for next month for our solar presentation. The gentleman couldn't make it tonight, but I'm hoping that we will have a chance to do that. Please get it on the agenda someplace for the full committee.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Mark.
I'll talk to Maureen about a subcommittee meeting right before. Does anybody else have a meeting coming right before the May meeting?
Not that they've asked yet.
Okay, can we hold a place for a safer meeting an hour before?
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Okay, school starts time. Maureen's not here. Jill, have you heard anything about school start time meetings?
It's my understanding that we were going to revisit after the budget.
Fantastic. Treasurer's report.
I'd just like to say once again that I think the school start time is a union item that should stay on the union agenda for when the union meets and discuss that, because it's going to encompass, based on the fact that we have to switch the buses. Even though I hate to be impacting education for the benefit of transportation, it is a reality that we have, and I think that the whole team needs to continue to have that on their agenda and discuss it until the issue is resolved one way or the other. Thank you.
Have you heard anything about the state, like, making it cleaner? No, because I've kind of heard levels of that.
They've been rumbling for years. It's sort of like seatbelts on buses.
Yeah.
It's,
And MASC did pass a resolution 2.5 years ago supporting the adjustment of school start times based on brain-based research.
Going back.
it's just, it's an unfunded mandate. So,
All right, treasurer's report. There were 13 warrants circulating the table tonight for a grand total of $2,292,555.91. There was also an additional 2 payroll warrants circulating for $1,496,371.60 for a grand total of $3,788,927.51. And I think Christine explained to you why the number is so high this year. It has to do with our debt payment and this batch of warrants. All right. And we had a Union 31 meeting tonight. So Moving on to future meeting dates and important dates to remember. April vacation is next week, April 16th to 20th, and our next school committee meeting will be here in the middle school library on May 10th, 2018. If there's no further comments, I will entertain. Laura?
Just, I know in Kingston, so the town elections are April 28th, so we will have a new representative from Kingston.
The way the bylaws are written,
Yeah.
they stay through May, and the
Okay.
new committee
So
doesn't start
start
till
in June.
June.
Okay.
Yes, because the towns hold them at different times.
Okay, I just wondered whether.
Yeah. No,
we
so
would have
our,
those ones. I was gonna ask about the
our
other
people who
towns.
are abandoning us still
Yeah.
have to come in May.
Oh,
One more
okay.
meeting.
But who's counting?
Yeah,
Well, he's
I'm
finally
just,
gonna get the solar thing on the.
yeah. He's trying.
All right, great, thank you.
All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Andrew has a second, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Quiet around.